Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. If you'd please honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Here.
Counselor Kennedy.
Here.
Counselor Laurie.
Here.
Counselor Martin.
Here.
Counselor Mendonça.
Here.
Counselor Mercier.
Here.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Counselor Nguyen.
Here.
Counselor Broderick.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. At this time, I recognize Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like to request a moment of silence in darkened chambers for the Reverend Hervé Gagnon, known to some of his close friends as Father Sam Gagnon, who passed away last month. Father Gagnon lived to the wise age of 93 years. He was born in 1919 and spent a lifetime of service to many people in the world, but in particular service to the people of Lowell. For a time, he was very active at Notre Dame de Lourdes Parish. I know in his retirement years, he performed significant service to patients at Deauville Senior Care. And I know even late in his, what many would consider late in his career, was a strong advocate for the work this council supported in the reinvention of Julian Steel. So Father Gagnon really leaves a remarkable legacy. He was one of 17 children, all of whom have predeceased him. But his work here will live on for many, many years and certainly be sorely missed.
Thank you, Councilor. If you'd please rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers. First item on the agenda, we have under Mayor's business, the citation. Presentation to Brian Gagnon for participation in the USA Track and Field Olympic Trials. Very happy to have with us today Brian, and on behalf of the city and the City Council of Lowell, I'd like to present this proclamation to Brian. Let it be known to all that the City of Lowell in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby recognizes Brian Gagnon for representing Lowell with grit, determination, and tremendous skill in the 2012 Olympic Trials. As a 2005 Lowell High School graduate, Brian won 3 state championships, 2 New England championships, while also breaking most of the previous distance records at Lowell High School. At the University of Connecticut, Brian twice earned the NCAA Division I All-American honors while earning 3 individual Big East titles and contributing to 3 team titles. This year, in Eugene, Oregon, Brian posted a 1:47 time in the 800 meters middle distance event, reflecting great credit upon himself, United States Track and Field, and of course the City of Lowell, given this 12th day of July 2012. Congratulations. And in his honor, I expect all of you to beat his 1:47 time with your own speaking times tonight. It's a shame you didn't run the 100-meter dash.
First, I want to start by saying thank you, Mayor Murphy, for this honor, and City Council. Thank you very much for recognizing my efforts at the 2012 Olympic Trials. I'm honored and humbled to accept this citation, and I just want to say, also want to say thank you to my parents, my mother, Karen Gagnon, my brother, Jared and Peter Malloy, who have been supporting me throughout my journey. It hasn't been a very easy year this year for me. A lot of you may not know, but my father unexpectedly passed away this past Thanksgiving time, so it was very tough, but with the support of my family, friends, and the city of Lowell, I was able to rise above and keep moving forward, and ran personal bests in all my events and made it to the semifinals and Olympic trials, and hopefully, definitely in 4 more years, you'll see me again out there, and hopefully I'll be standing here again, receiving another citation from you guys. This is something, you gotta be from Lowell to understand, and it's Lowell pride. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Next, we have communication on the Sister Cities update. I do want to recognize a few people who are in the audience with us. Appointed to the Mayor's Task Force on Sister Cities, we have Dr. Giulio Di Cavallo, Greg Page, Beatrice Sierra, who couldn't be here tonight, Ann Sheehy, and Tooch Van. And we have a number of others who have expressed interest in chairing the actual cities committee, so we thank you also for your participation. The next communication we have is a presentation of a plaque from the mayor of the city of Nairobi, Kenya. And here to do that is Mr. Fred Goldberg.
Richard Lukokai is going to do the presentation because he represents the Lowell, Nairobi diaspora group from Kenya. So, well, I'll give the background on it. Should I just? Yeah. Okay, great. Go ahead. Last year I visited, I have an organization that connects students in Kenya and here in America. They communicate with each other, they do projects with each other. And when I went to Nairobi last year in October, I took a letter from the past mayor's office and met with the mayor of Nairobi to sort of kick off the Sister City initiative. And since then, Richard has been forming a Lowell, Nairobi Sister City group. And I will represent them in Kenya in 3 weeks. And I'll return to Kenya to the mayor. This is the, so bring this up to you, Patrick. Coming down. So this is what the mayor gave me to give to you, along with this. This is the flag of the city. Yep. Yeah, the flag of okay. And this is the letter I'll bring to the mayor of Nairobi. Okay. Well, thank you.
I'd entertain a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have under the city clerk's portion of the agenda, minutes of the city council meeting of August 14th, the public safety subcommittee of August 16th for acceptance. Move to accept by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Noon. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Moving into the city manager's portion of the agenda, we have communications from city manager, responses to city council motions and requests. Any discussion? Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In response to my motion regarding the recent shooting in the Highlands, Captain Taylor provided the council with a very detailed report as to what is taking place, an explanation of the involvement, detailed process of the investigation, and the assistance of the people in the know, as well as increased police patrol outreach in the neighborhood. They did have an outreach on Saturday in the Lower Highlands area of the city, whereby 50 people attended, and they spoke about the ongoing crime and problems in the neighborhood. I know Councilor Laurie and Marty Laurie and Councilor Vesna Noon attended. I would have attended as well. That is my former neighborhood. I was on vacation and away in Pennsylvania, so I didn't have a chance to be there, or I would have. And then they talked about new strategies that had taken place. So I want to just say for the record that more than just taking down a police report is quite evident, and I'm very grateful to the superintendent of police as well as Captain Taylor and all the police that are involved in trying to put a stamp on this and stop it, try to minimize what's going on there. And so I'm very grateful for all that. And secondly, there's a communication as well about the new placards. I know that we'll be talking about it later with my motion, but in case we take all motions together and I don't have a chance to say anything, I just want to say that, yes, there's a revised ordinance, there's a transition in place. DPD is on the lead with that because it should be under the parking department, but because of the recent current flux in that, the DPD has taken over. But I want this to be known because out of the whole report, this is very important. Though through the sign exchange, the first year fee of the $10 will be waived for anyone who brings in their old reserved parking sign in exchange for the newly designed sign prior to the invalidation date of December 14th. I think that's quite remarkable to think that we're going to be doing that, and I didn't know that that was part of the subcommittee report at the time, so I just want people to know that. So bring in your old sign and get the new sign. We're not out to make money. We're just out to straighten things out and make things proper and try to get along in the neighborhood, try to make it unified. So I thought that was pretty important. And the third thing that I wanted to say as well was that there was a tax title auction, very, very important and instrumentally led by Councilor Kennedy, and this auction cleared over 100 properties from our tax title list and brought in over $1.3 million as a direct result of this progress. So Councilor Kennedy, and you know, we never give up. We didn't do well the first time. Through the law department, went at it again, and I think this says a lot for the city and what's taken shape here. So putting it back on the tax title, generating that revenue, I think that's remarkable. And I just had to highlight some good things because sometimes we only read the bad, and I think a lot of good things are happening, and I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Noon and then Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mayor. Back to the shot fire, the incident in the Highlands, and I'm pleased to see that the police department, our police department, especially the Highland Precinct, led by Captain Taylor, work closely with the neighborhood group, Tires, and the Boy and Girl Club, and I know they're going to bring UTAC into it. With regard to this incident, the shot fire, the last one was in Smith Street. Last Saturday meeting was a really productive one. But one need to remember that if you look at the analysis, the crime analysis that was conducted by the Lowell police, comparing the 2011 and to the 2012, the Lower Highland has been, the crime in the Lower Highland has been decreased by 14% in terms of ranging from burglary, car breaking, disorderly, robbery, shoplifting, and so on. That said, the police department and the Lower Highland group, they did not take the shot fire lightly. So they worked with the community, the Lower Highland, the council, Councilor Laurie and I was there, and also Henry from city administration. So going forward, we have a number of strategy in terms of address this issue. Along with the shot fire incident, there was discussion pertaining to prostitution. There was a suggestion to have street lights, especially on Middlesex and Westwood Street, lit up, because that will deter street prostitution in those areas. And the other was the concern about the abandoned building and the foreclosure home that was actually the not clean and the high out place for the prostitutions and stuff like that. So I thought it was very, very overall a very productive meeting, and going forward, I'm sure it's going to be much more productive than that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on Councilor Mercier's motion, last week, an individual did come in and speak before the council and said, geez, if you want to come see the bullet hole in my house, and I did. And I walked the streets up there and talked to many of the neighbors, but the meeting was very good, and a lot of people did show up, and it was announced that Councilor Mercier had wished to be there, but she was on vacation, and I know she would have been there too. And but I have high hopes. Walking through the neighborhood, and it was before I came on the council, of asking people about the quality of life up there, and they said, boy, years ago it was really bad. I guess the Malloy School had some issues, and the police department cleaned that up. So I'm very optimistic. Things are going to work out well up there, and I'm glad Councilor Mercier brought the motion in. On the placards, turning in the card, turning in the old sign, getting a free one, that all belongs to, I think, Mr. Bakey from DPD. I don't remember that coming through the subcommittee. That's something I think they've done on their own, and I think it was a great idea. And finally, on the work with Councilor Kennedy, the law department, selling off the property. Past couple of weeks, you're picking up the newspaper time and time again. You're reading about overrides in the towns and the cities, and the problem everyone's still facing in the economy. And you look at this city, there probably won't be a tax increase this year. $1.3 million, I guess, came in. I think we're still waiting on the free cash, maybe. But when you look at what's going on in other cities and towns and what's going on in this city, especially financially, it really does look bright for the city of Lowell, and I think that really needs to be brought out. And I want to congratulate the administration, Councilor Kennedy, and the law department on that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Mendonça.
Yes, I'd like to highlight the traffic signal improvement that's going to happen in the next year. So hopefully by this time next year, we'll have much improved intersections where people have complained at University Ave and Riverside Street, but Tuckett Street and School Street, Westford Street and School Street, and Lawrence Street and Church Street. So as the memo says, this is the first time in recent memory that the city has been able to finance significant improvements to its aging traffic signals without grant funds. So I think it'll be a great accomplishment, and hopefully by this time next year, those intersections will be greatly improved as far as the traffic signalization goes. So thank you to the administration.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Kennedy.
Yeah, just briefly, Mr. Mayor, just an update on a motion that was on the agenda last week regarding the tree cutting up in Pawtucketville. It's my understanding that the Lowell Conservation Commission took a vote this past week, requesting that the DPW inform them before any trimming or tree cutting take place up in the wetlands area, up in the Clay Brook area, which is all wetlands. And I just wanted to say that I think that that's a good idea, and I just wanted to ask Mr. Marchand if that was something. Did you know about that? I mean, I know you're working on the other issue, and I just wondered whether or not you were aware of that, and if maybe you could get a response from the DPW on the motion from the Conservation Commission. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the communications? Council Martin.
There is one communication from DPD about property at 390 Pawtucket Street that's been pending for some time, a request for a zoning change with a request to refer the matter to a public hearing within the next 4 to 6 weeks. So I would make a motion that we refer that petition for rezoning 390 Pawtucket Street to a
Second.
public hearing
Motion by Council Martin, seconded by
for
Council
the
Mercia.
first available date that the clerk can schedule.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Councilman Mendonça.
Along those same lines, we have a recommendation for a petition to rezone downtown and have daycare, so I wasn't sure if we need to do anything with that. Sorry,
Public hearing.
referring to a public,
It is
it's already scheduled?
We have that for the
For
public
tonight.
hearing tonight.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the communications? Entertain a motion to accept and place on file by Council Laurie, seconded by Council Noon. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. At this point, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules to allow for the temporary appointment of the Lowell Election Commissioner.
Motion to suspend the rule.
So moved.
Motion by Council Mercia, seconded by Council Martin. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Entertain a motion for the actual appointment.
So moved.
So moved by Council Mercia, seconded by Council Martin. Any discussion? Council Laurie?
Is he here?
I don't believe so. Council Kennedy?
How long is this appointment for?
30 days,
Okay.
it says.
And my understanding is that one of the election commissioners has medical issues, and that's the reason that we're doing this, and it's just for 30 days, and it's just because we have the election coming upon us. Is that,
I defer to the
hear from the law department?
Madam Solicitor.
That's absolutely correct, Counselor. We have the election coming upon us, and this will put the city in a position of having maintaining a full complement of election commissioners, and it'll be temporary in nature. Right now, it's proposed at 30 days.
Okay. I have a motion on later on, asking that the city manager either appoint or reappoint all 4 of the election commissioners, and I have that motion on because they're all holdovers. But I understand that there has to be a balance, I guess, between Democrats and Republicans for
That's by
the...
statute,
Right,
yeah.
there does have to be a balance, and if anything happened to the one remaining person of that party, that would be a significant issue as well.
Okay. Just in general on this matter, I don't like this whole idea of temporary appointments, but because of the circumstances, I guess I would consider this to be extraordinary, and so I'll support it on this.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Present.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Nguyen.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 present.
Thank you. Moving back to the regularly scheduled agenda, we have a vote to declare surplus at 84 West 6th Street. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Noon, seconded by Council Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Reading by title. In City Council vote, declaring surplus property located at 84 West 6th Street, Lowell, Massachusetts, and authorizing the city manager to utilize an application process available to abutters for the disposition of said parcel, namely 84 West 6th Street in the city of Lowell. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move for approval by Council Mercia, seconded by Council Noon. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Nguyen.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have an order of taking and acceptance of Elliott Drive and Knob Way. Motion to waive the full reading by Counsel Laurie, seconded by Counsel Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Reading by title. In City Council, order of taking and acceptance of Elliott Drive and Knob Way. To take by eminent domain in fee certain parcels of land of the City of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Elliott Drive and Knob Way and other municipal purposes associated therewith. I'd entertain a motion to refer to a public hearing on September 11th at 7 p.m. Motion by Counsel Martin, second by Counsel Mendonça. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a vote authorizing the manager execute a memorandum of understanding for Local 2532. Motion to waive the full reading by Counsel Mendonça, seconded by Counsel Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Reading by title in City Council vote. Authorizing the City Council to ratify and approve the execution by the City Manager of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Lowell and Local 2532, AFSCME, Council 93, covering the period July 1st, 2010 through June 30th, 2012. What's the wish of the council? Move to approve by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Martin. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this doesn't have any salary, cost of living increase, but there is a base salary increase, correct? Of the $500 for the health insurance?
Yeah, that was a previous negotiated with the coalition.
All right, but it's adopting this contract, this actually is covering just up to June 30th, 2012.
Right. The $500 that you're talking about was a separate agreement. This doesn't cover that.
Right. How come it took so long to bring this contract forward that expired on the 30th? If there was there other issues that needed to be negotiated, or? I'm just curious. I mean, it's, August, and if there was no discussion, why?
These were a couple of stragglers. I believe there was difficulty in scheduling some of these negotiating sessions. It's there may be one more yet to come too.
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Nguyen.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote authorizing the manager to execute memorandum of understanding for Unit D through the same time period, July 1st, 2010 through June 30th, 2012. Motion to waive the full reading by Counsel Mendonça, seconded by Counsel Nguyen. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Reading by title in City Council vote. Authorizing the City Council to ratify and approve the execution by the City Manager of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Lowell and MVEA Unit D, covering the period July 1st, 2010 through June 30th, 2012. What's the wish of the council?
Move to
Move
approve.
for approval by Counsel Laurie, seconded by Counsel Broderick. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Nguyen.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have an order for a 60-day trial. Motion to waive the full reading by Counsel Mendonça, seconded by Counsel Nguyen. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Reading by title in City Council order. Pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, temporary traffic regulations are implemented for a period of 60 days. What's the wish of the council?
Move to approve.
Move for approval by Counsel Martin, seconded by Counsel Mendonça. Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Madonza.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Nguyen.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote to apply, accept, expend a grant of $65,000 from the Mass Development Brownfields Redevelopment Fund. Motion to waive the full reading by Counselor Laurie, second by Counselor Kennedy. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Reading by title in City Council vote. Authorizing city manager to apply, accept, and expend funds from a grant from the Mass Development Brownfields Redevelopment Fund in the amount of $65,000.
Move approval.
Move for approval by Counselor Kennedy, second by Counselor Laurie. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Pardon me.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Madonza.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Nguyen.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Mr. Mayor, I just asked if we could take something out of order right now. A few minutes ago, we voted to put someone on the board for 30 days, and I voted to approve that because it's temporary and it's a situation.
Motion to suspend the rules by Counselor Laurie, second by Counselor Kennedy. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Counselor Laurie.
Thank you. Last week, we voted to put a few people on one of the boards, the planning board, and one member couldn't make it. And I was wondering if he's here tonight. I really don't want to, if he's here tonight, he wouldn't be sitting here all night, Mr. Gilday. I think is there Mr. Gilday here? The manager assured us he would have been here tonight,
Okay, well,
and I voted it, to approve it on that. And I don't want him sitting here all night if he's not here.
okay, well, it doesn't appear that he's here, so
Okay?
I think we'll move back to the
Deal with-
regular agenda. We have ordinance amend the zoning for Westview Road. Motion to waive the full reading by Counselor Mercia, second by Counselor Noon. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Reading by title in City Council ordinance. An ordinance amending the code of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts with respect to Chapter 290 thereof entitled Zoning by extending suburban single-family zoning district to include the entirety of 219 Westview Road in Lowell, a portion of which is presently zoned light industrial. What's the wish of the council?
Refer to the planning department for a report and recommendation.
Motion by Counselor Mercia, seconded by Counselor Laurie to refer to the planning department for a recommendation.
Public hearing on September 25th.
And a public hearing on September 27th.
Okay.
25th.
Excuse me, the 25th at 7 p.m. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted.
7 o'clock, Patrick.
Being just after 7 o'clock, we'll move to the public hearing portion of the agenda. First is the ordinance amend zoning to allow for family daycare in the downtown. Motion to waive the full reading by Counselor Noon, seconded by Counselor Mercia. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Reading by title in City Council ordinance. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 290 thereof entitled Lowell Zoning Ordinance by amending various sections related to the DMU zoning district to allow family daycare as an accessory use. At this point, we'll open it up to a public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor. If you just please state your name and address for the record.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mark Middleton, I'm a resident of the city of Lowell. As I stated before the last time the council had a hearing, there are 4 sub-districts in this particular district. 3 of them already are allowed to have small family-based daycare. This change, if it's allowed, would essentially allow all of the families that have moved into the city of Lowell with their young kids to have the option of watching kids or having them have their kids watched in their neighborhood, where they could essentially walk 1 block or a half a block to the daycare provider. So myself and a lot of other people do support this change. Thank you.
Thank you. All those wishing to speak in favor?
Hi, I'm Corey Pasternak, and I live at 30 Market Street in Lowell. I'm also speaking in favor of this zoning change because I'm a mother. I have a 2-year-old already, and I have one on the way. And it's really, it's more than just an inconvenience to not be able to find family daycare within my city. It doesn't seem like it's very reasonable to expect parents to have to go outside of the downtown district in order to get family daycare. And I think that this current zoning situation makes the city of Lowell very unfriendly for families. And families like me and my friends, a lot of them have already started looking at places to live that are a little bit more family friendly. So I don't think that it would be a good idea for Lowell to pass on this opportunity to make this a more family friendly place to live. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a petition with a lot of other signatures as well.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Good evening. My name is Alexandra Tubielli. I live at 33 Middle Street here in downtown Lowell, and as you can tell, I'm also expecting. I am speaking today in support of amending the zoning ordinances. I was somebody who went to the university, graduated, moved to Lowell, bought their first home in Lowell, works in Lowell, and is not going anywhere anytime soon. And I think that the city has done a lot to encourage businesses and people to come downtown, to relocate, and to live here. And I think that by amending the ordinances, you're also, again, like the previous speaker said, making living downtown more family friendly. For example, speaking personally, on my floor, the floor of my building alone, in this calendar year, we will have gone from 0 children to 5, which is a huge increase. And all of us parents and moms would really appreciate changing the amendment, because some of the benefits to having family childcare downtown, as another previous speaker said, is that it's a lot more convenient. I myself live and work downtown, so it would be extremely helpful and beneficial for me to have a family childcare program that I could walk to. Some residents will talk about childcare centers that are currently available to people who live downtown, which is great. Family childcare centers do not allow infants. They don't have care options for them. And also, amending the zoning laws would allow parents like myself to have a choice. Myself personally, I will be looking into family childcare because I feel like it would be a better choice for me and my family. It's a smaller, more personal kind of experience. I do feel like, as pregnant women, we forget stuff sometimes. I had to take some notes. This is also not just the benefits to people who live downtown. Having family childcare programs downtown would be an option for childcare for the many residents and people who come downtown to go to work. Having a place that would be close to where you work to bring your child to be able to reach in case of emergencies or to go visit would be an added benefit. Another thing about family childcare programs is that they're businesses, they're small businesses, and it would be another option for people who are interested in having a business to bring them downtown to an area that's full of business. I was also kind of given permission to speak on behalf of 2 women on my floor who have kids or are about to have children of their own. And informally, they're excited about the option of not just soliciting a family child care business in our neighborhood, but also the option to, as young moms, open up a program of our own so we can have a small business and have a livelihood and an income without having to worry about going back to work. So there are a lot of other beneficial reasons to have a family child care, to change the zoning to allow for family child care downtown, and I hope that the council will consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
My name is David Fieldsend. I live at 76 New Hall Street in Back Central, which is right next to downtown. My wife and I moved here in 2003 to finish up our studies at UMass Lowell, and since that time we've graduated school, got jobs, bought a house, have 2 kids now. And having the flexible option of the family daycare downtown, it would be very helpful. And there have been instances in the past when you're juggling car seats around, and having a walkable place where you can have your kids be watched is very helpful. And it's, in fact, one of the reasons that we moved to Lowell and that we love Lowell is having the walkable nature of the city. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the ordinance? In favor? In favor? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. We open it up at this time for those wishing to speak in opposition.
I registered to speak on Friday. My name is Jeffrey Clark. I live at Era Lost Condo on Middle Street in downtown Lowell with my wife, Miriam Perkins, and we're against the proposed zoning change. On the surface, the proposed zoning amendments allowing family daycare as an accessory use may sound like a good idea to many. However, when you dig a little deeper and get all the facts, you'll find several unique considerations and negative impacts for the downtown mixed-use zone. The first issue is availability and affordability of liability insurance. The presence of family daycare requires condos and apartment buildings to purchase additional liability insurance to protect their assets. However, most, if not all, insurance companies will deny coverage to condos containing daycare businesses, which would force the condos to seek coverage in the expensive, high-risk surplus market where there's no guarantee of obtaining coverage. The second issue is an immediate impact on several DMU condos. The proposed zoning amendment will immediately allow family daycare in multiple DMU condos to permit accessory uses in their master deeds. This amendment will make the decision for them. If these condos believe family daycare businesses are not in their best interest for their buildings, they will be forced to take action as a result of the amendment to specifically exclude it as a permitted use in their master deeds. The third issue is incompatibility with residential and art studio use. Nearly all housing in the DMU affected by the proposed zoning amendments are condos and apartments in converted mill and historic buildings, most of which are not constructed with sound insulation and separate customer entrances to support family daycare. Daycare businesses in these buildings will be disruptive to residents and artists and a deterrent to many potential buyers. Property values will be negatively impacted. The fourth issue is lack of required outdoor play space. Few, if any, condo and apartment buildings in the DMU zone have the required outdoor play space on site to support family daycare. Parks may be the only option for these businesses to meet this requirement. However, we do not believe there are any parks in downtown Lowell that meet the Department of Early Education and Care's licensing requirements for outdoor play space, especially the requirement for inaccessibility to busy streets. Finally, there is no demonstrated need for family daycare in the DMU. There are multiple options for group and school-age daycare in and around downtown Lowell, and door-to-door transportation is available from downtown Lowell to numerous local group and family daycare providers. The current zoning ordinance that allows group and school-age daycare facilities, but not family daycare businesses, provides a good balance for the DMU neighborhood without the previous negative impacts. We identified these issues in a letter to the planning board, which included extensive documentation supporting each and every one of these issues. At their meeting last week, the planning board unanimously voted to recommend rejection of the proposed zoning amendments based on our letter. We also submitted our letter to the City Council, and I hope you all have a copy of it, and we asked the City Council to also dig a little deeper into these facts and consider the negative impacts the proposed zoning amendments will have on the condos, apartments, residents, and artists in the DMU zone. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, open it for those wishing to speak in opposition.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Thank you very much for the privilege to speak. My name is Craig Himmelberger. I'm the Secretary of the Canal Place Condominium Association at 200 Market Street, downtown Lowell, as part of this district. We're discussing here the establishment of a legal backdoor that subverts the protections and covenants of condominium association master deeds that specifically point out that they are for residential use only. The right and fair way to accomplish a goal of having family daycare in such an establishment would be to have the business honestly request a vote to change that single condominium association's master deed to permit it, and then ask for a zoning variance. And I think this board, the planning board, would all fairly hear any request on that basis. However, This particular legal subterfuge, which gets into the condominium master deeds, undermines both the intent and the clearly expressed property rights under which most every one of us downtown condominium residents have purchased our homes. I'm speaking for myself, my condominium association, and my neighbors. Our homes were purchased at high cost, in significant part due to the exclusively residential use of these buildings. As has been pointed out, they are not built with separate entrances, sound control, or proper play space for children. Our condominiums do not have separate means of access. We share our front door among 119 units of the building. We do not need additional strangers coming and going throughout the day in our hallways. Our automobile access is chaotic at best and already dangerous from dozens of patrons of the available daycare center, which is directly across the parking lot from our building. Many of our residents already have to park in the Roy garage, adding dozens of car trips every day, adding additional toddlers and small children running in the parking lot that's already overrun by school buses, heavy trash hauling vehicles, ambulance, and other large vehicles is irresponsibly dangerous. Most of all, as cited by the previous speaker, the burden of liability placed on the association by the existence of a commercial business for the care of children is unreasonable. We have already, as an association, endured a price increase of our liability insurance of $20,000 due to exposures across our parking lot that I'm not going to go into, but the question remains if we would even be able to get liability insurance if a daycare center were licensed to operate in our building. We have consistently, over the near 30-year history of our building, voted to deny every request for any type of business to operate in the building. The ownership has been very clear on this consistently for 30 years, and this includes proposals for daycare. Even the proposal that was made last year of one person that all he wanted to do was have business mail delivered to his address, and we refused that request. So it's a very clear message from the ownership that they do not want such accessory use allowed in the building. We're directly across the parking lot from a licensed daycare center. Women in the building, families in the building already share childcare amongst themselves, and there is no shortage of people in the building to watch small children, and I know there are a lot of people that do it on a voluntary and personal basis in their homes. And this, to me, is a very reasonable way to proceed for the people that feel like they need that sort of thing. Again, to reiterate, the right and fair way to accomplish the goal that's being proposed here is to have a business in any particular location honestly request a vote for a change in that single condominium's master deed, and then come to the zoning board and the city council to request a variance. And I would expect that you would fairly hear any of those requests. Otherwise, this is mainly a legal subterfuge that undermines the master documents of these condominium associations that specifically forbid anything but residential use. Thank you very much.
Keep the hearing open again for those wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, for the opportunity to speak in opposition to this proposed ordinance change. My name is Stephen Green. I reside at 181 Market Street condominium complex. I'm also a trustee there. And I do want to point out, as others before in opposition to this ordinance, that the accessory use does complicate the legal situation with the master deed, and that depending upon the way the master deed was written, and they vary because of the ages of the buildings, some anticipated some of these problems, were clear about it, others were not as clear about it. So for that vein, and because of the increased costs associated with the insurance that would be required for having a daycare center in a building, I want to speak in opposition. I do want to say that I think that a revamping of the downtown zoning ordinances may be in order, but it's probably not something that's going to be accomplished with this particular issue, because I think the whole notion of making the city more usable and livable in dealing with those issues, but putting a daycare center in a building that could impact 100 people. We're not talking about just one house that may have a couple of people, residents, abutting residents. We're talking potentially 100 people who are going to be impacted by the activities and the additional costs that could be occurred. So thank you for the opportunity.
Keeping the public hearing open for those wishing to speak in opposition.
Hello, my name is Miriam Perkins. I'm Jeff's wife, and I reside at 172 Middle Street. To discuss a bit about the zoning and what it's supposed to accomplish, the City of Lowell's master plan states, zoning ordinances are intended to guide future development in order to protect the health, safety, and welfare within a community, preserve community character, prevent undesirable development, and maintain property values. So as you have seen from the information and the testimonial letters presented here, adopting the proposed amendments that would allow family daycare businesses as an accessory use and a home occupation as a right would jeopardize these objectives of the master plan in numerous ways. Last week, the Planning Board unanimously rejected the proposed amendments. The process only enables them to give a yes or no recommendation to you, we were told, and not to offer advice to the council. However, I'd like to let you know what they had to say in the course of their deliberations. They said a reasonable alternative would be to allow both small family daycare and large family daycare in the DMU district by special permit only. The zoning ordinances distinguish between a home occupation as a right and a home occupation by special permit. Home occupation as a right does not produce any customer, pupil, employee, or client trips to the occupation site. Home occupation by special permit drops that requirement. We do not believe it makes sense to change the zoning ordinances to include businesses that bring non-residents into a building within the definition of a home occupation as a right, nor does it make sense to allow daycare as an accessory use when this would change what is allowed under existing condominium documents without the prior agreement of owners. The DMU district was designed to promote a vibrant urban environment in the heart of downtown Lowell. Allowing family daycare businesses would not protect existing neighborhood character. It would unfairly impose significant economic and quality of life changes upon current residents. Therefore, we ask that you please reject the amendments as proposed.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
My name is Pamela Howland, and I live at 181 Market Street in Lowell. I agree with the opponents who have spoken so far and will not go into any lengthy discussion except to say that I have never seen any mention of limiting these daycare centers in a residential building that we all live in downtown. I mean, I would hate to see a family daycare start and then another one start on another floor and another one start 3 doors down, and I don't see any limit in the proposal to start family daycares, and I would certainly want that to be taken under consideration, that any more than one daycare in a condominium would certainly jeopardize a lot of the values that we expect to have as far as peaceful living and quietness. So I just would like to mention that that is something that is really important, that even one daycare would lead to others unless there were specific requirements. All in all, I oppose the amendment, and I think if the petitioners came back with a better plan and more information and more specific rules and regulations, that then it should be considered. At this point, I would suggest and ask that you say no. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Michael Barbo. I live at 200 Market Street, Canal Place. I've lived in Lowell since 1993. When I moved in, the Head Start daycare facility, which at the present time is not at full occupancy, was not there. It has since come into the neighborhood, and it has changed the profile of that neighborhood drastically. Our condominium, our particular building, 200 Market Street, as it was mentioned earlier, is not set up for play areas. We don't allow our own owners to be doing jogging in the hallways or other such activities. So we're not set up to have children playing in the common areas. As Craig had mentioned earlier, as a building, we have already been negatively impacted on situations that are thrust upon us. Again, I won't go into it. We're here to talk about the zoning, but the Boot Mills dilapidated building such that it caused us to lose our insurance. We had the same carrier for 20-plus years. I don't know the exact number, and when suffice to say that situation arose, we lost them. To get another insurance company, we had to pay a penalty of $20,000 per year. I can only imagine what the insurance companies would say about a business which already in our master deed does not allow for what they would say as far as insuring us. It impacts those buildings, those residents in a multitude of ways, negative ways. And I encourage all of you, please, when you have places such as Head Start who are not at full capacity, let's have those filled first before we start. And to this young lady's point, I don't even want one, let alone, although her point is valid, if you allow one, you can have 2, 7, 9, 12. I don't want any of them. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council? Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought that I should speak first since this was my motion that was referred to the planning department, the planning board. And as you know, I made this motion because there were quite a few people that had children. And I, for one, do not want spread the attitude, no children allowed, which is what it almost seems to be with a few of the speakers, not all, but some. And I'll take you back to some years ago when I was getting rather elderly and living in a particular neighborhood, and children were on the street and they were making such a racket back and forth, and it was like giving me a headache. And I said to myself, wait a minute, many years ago, those same children in the street were yours. Now that yours are grown up, it's time you listen to others, that it's a new generation and they have children too. So it wasn't my children, but it could have been. And I hear the children here. Some seem to be perturbed that they're even here, but I welcome children here. But I'll take you back to what I'm dealing with here. I'm not a professional here, so when this was referred to the planning board, they came back with a recommendation. They met on August 20th. I wasn't around at that particular time. It was the start of my vacation, or I probably would have been there. And people have a right to their opinion, just like the people that called me. They asked me to help them. I wasn't about to say no. I figured there was a way that we could do this, and I consulted with Adam Bakey, and I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he knows a lot more about zoning issues than I do, so I relied on his help. And this is the way we came up with it. And I hear both sides of this tale. I hear it. I know people need this downtown, and yet there are those that don't want it downtown. And I thought it was a good idea to change this allowable use, because I did specify at the time that I said this motion that even though if it would pass, it would be up to the individual condo units to decide that they don't want it. And they don't want it, and I thought that's a good thing. They don't want it, they don't have to have it, but condo units that would allow it could have it, and people could take part in those daycare areas. Having said the minute things, as if we were lawyers here, which I'm not, so I don't understand this master deed and all this stuff, and I didn't take that into consideration. But I heard from Canal Place and Airloft. I thought that individually they could vote their condo association and say, no daycare in this building, therefore that's fine, that's up to your discretion. But I thought this was an artist live workspace, so if you don't want children or daycare, and it's an artist live workspace and your liability will go up, please don't tell me that you're allowing your artist wear to be allowed by the public to come in and look at it and purchase it, because that would be a liability that would incur with all the traffic coming in to buy your artist supplies and your artwork and all this stuff. So let's take that into consideration. But I'm not here to undermine anyone. And having said that, I feel that I like to be a counselor that would be fair, because I heard both sides. So I would like to revamp this. I won't support this ordinance since I see an outcry saying your point, and I heard your point, and I don't want your liability to go up, or your master deed, or whatever those fine print words are saying, because I don't know that. But the recommendation of professional people much greater than I say that we could revamp this, we could make it a reasonable alternative, we could allow a special permit process whereby small family daycare facilities or even a larger daycare facility be initiated somewhere there if you apply and we review that process. That's a recommendation of people that know better than me, so I would not support this ordinance on those grounds alone. But I want what's fair for everybody. I want what's fair for you that spoke in opposition, but I also want what's fair for the young people starting out with children. We have children here. We should not have an opinion that no children allowed like many years ago when it says Irish need not apply. This is not what this city is all about. So I will step back and say, yes, I agree with you. We will have a reasonable alternative. I won't support my own ordinance. It's tough to be defeated, you know what I'm saying? But I'm defeated for the point where I think it'd be fair for everyone if we revamp this, and Adam will come back with an alternative to help me what is amenable to everybody here. And I think that can happen, and that's why I'm speaking. I'll speak in opposition, and I won't vote for the ordinance, but I guarantee that I want to come back with something that is amenable to everybody in this room so we can all live in peace and harmony and think about the children. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, Councilor Martin?
I share a lot of sentiments expressed by Councilor Mercier, but I think it's a relatively simple fix to adopt as recommended by the planning board. Would just be changing the as-of-right designation, yes, to SP, special permit, and also changing the cross-reference in the statute. I don't know if that's a significant enough change to require a whole new advertising and public hearing process. I guess I'd defer to the solicitor on that, but I think it's potentially possible we could just adopt the planning board recommendation and vote this as Councilor Mercier suggests.
Madam Solicitor?
As far as the recommendation would be a lesser change than what was actually advertised, and under those circumstances, I think the council would be in a position to be able to move forward with that, should the majority of the council wish to do that.
Councilor Elliott.
Well, it wasn't advertised, and I understand the lesser issue, but I don't think, with the exception of this young lady, no one else probably knows about this. I mean, we received this communication from the planning board, but I don't know if anybody else did. I mean, I'm sorry, I forget your name, but Mrs. Clark, they went to the planning board, and according to her statements that, and it contradicts what the memo states, is that they're not allowed or entitled to give an opinion or recommendation, yet we did receive that in a memorandum. So, did the people that went to the planning board, were they aware that this recommendation was going to come, and were they prepared to speak on this tonight? I would argue no. So they're not aware of it. So it is a substantive change, or it is a change anyway that they were not prepared to address,
Right.
or speak in favor or opposition.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, it certainly is a change, and the council would be well within their discretion to be able to come to the conclusion that, based on the factors that you're talking about, that it would be better to pull it back and re-advertise. As far as the narrow issue, generally speaking, if people have are put on notice as to the nature of a change, say it's a rate hike of, $2, and then in the end, you want to drop it down to $1, that wouldn't necessitate the re-advertising. I understand the point that you're making, and it's a good one. It's within the discretion of the council. My only comment was, I think you have the discretion to go either way. What you decide, however, would be up to the council.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I did have a question. Could I ask you a question? Is it Mrs. Clark? Could you please explain or reiterate what you referenced when it comes to the special permit and the effects that it may have either on the deed or your condo association?
Well, by special permit, you would not be subverting the condominium documents. You would need to come before the abutters, who I suppose would be everyone in the building, and explain what you propose, and there would be a hearing with regard to both sides again, and the trustees would be able to weigh in.
And did I read in the documents that most condo associations, or at least some, would require a supermajority from the condo owners?
If you wish to change your master deed language, it requires a certain percentage vote of the ownership, which is also specified in the condominium documents. If you are a trustee and the board votes by majority to adopt a new rule to regulate an existing use, that's permissible, but you can't go and deny a use that's already in your master deed. And our own attorney had a call into the city solicitor's office, but didn't get a call back to discuss the details on that, but that's my own understanding.
Okay. Well, I'd make a motion that we delay or refer to either the solicitor, or we do have a zoning subcommittee. I think it was a well-intended motion, but it had unintended consequences, and that came out through the process. And the planning board didn't recommend it, and I'm not going to support it either. I think some valid points have been made. I think when this idea came before us, we all want to try to make it's a quality of life issue. It's an affordability issue, and it makes some sense. But clearly has some impacts, financial and otherwise, on people that have bought and invested in the downtown and had a set of expectations of what they were buying into, whether it was artist lofts or condo associations or a particular lifestyle, and this would change that. And I think they made their case loud and clear. So I'm not going to support this in its form, and I have to be convinced otherwise that the special permit is the way to go, and that the condo owners and property owners downtown think it is a good idea, because there are a lot of reasons included here that zoning just might not be this type of zoning or this type of activity in this zoning, in this particular zone is right. So I'd make that in the form of a motion. I think it needs more discussion, and I think those individuals that went to the planning board speaking in opposition to a particular zoning change or ordinance amendment should be afforded the opportunity to digest this and see what impact should we go with it with an amendment to the amendment. See what impact that would have.
Just a clarification, is the motion to delay and set a public hearing based upon the recommendations of the planning board?
Well, I would make a motion that we refer, the planning board can't make recommendations, right? I mean, although it is included here, so.
They can make recommendations, we just aren't bound by them.
Well, the recommendation is based upon the ordinance change is that we don't support it, so.
There are also recommendations here that we look at the special permit. So the question is just whether we're delaying and setting a public hearing based upon that recommendation for a special permit process.
My motion would be to delay and refer this to the zoning subcommittee.
Okay, motion by Councilor Elliott,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Kennedy.
Roll call.
Mayor?
Councilor Kennedy.
Yeah, if I could on the motion, well, on the motion and on the whole matter before us. You know, this was brought forth by Councilor Mercier. I think it's well-intentioned. I think that the problems are that it's in the downtown, and I can think of reasons that weren't even mentioned here tonight why it maybe wouldn't be a good idea to have a daycare in certain buildings downtown. But I do think that Councilor Martin makes a good point, and the planning board did recommend as one of their 3 options, I think, that if this was approved with special permit, that would be okay. There doesn't seem to be much opposition from those who are opposed to doing it by special permit. That would at least do it on a case-by-case basis. I would hope that any daycare that was approved would be licensed by the Commonwealth, or you just wouldn't, and it just wouldn't be anybody that wanted to have a few kids in every day could do that. But, and so I think if the solicitor thinks that it might be better to, or safer to refer it to the zoning subcommittee to have it be retooled and sent back, then maybe that's the best way to go. So I've seconded the motion. I'm ready to support the motion to delay, to send it to the subcommittee with the idea that we would come back with something that would allow it by special permit, or I could support approving it this evening on the special permit as recommended by the planning board. So I can go either way, but if nothing else happens, I'm going to support the motion. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Roll call.
Councilman Donta first.
When this was first proposed, I thought it was just a matter of fairness to those that needed daycare and those that wanted to provide the daycare as a business. What I clearly had not understood at the time was the unintended consequences in the form of the liability insurance requirements on all the other condominium owners. So it has a significant negative impact on a far greater population than those that had originally proposed this. And that gives me pause. And I mean, I'd like to support it for those that need the daycare. I know it's a very challenging time when you have young children to try and find daycare for them and provide for their proper care. But at the same time, if this were a single-family residence, then it would only be that family running the business that would be impacted by the liability insurance. But we've already identified several condominiums in this area that would be impacted, where other people not at all related or involved in the daycare business would be impacted negatively by the insurance liability or the possibility of not being able to obtain insurance or liability insurance. So I can't support the by right. And I think we need to really examine the special permit. If that still creates a liability problem for the condominium association as a whole. I'm not convinced it does, and I'm hearing that it's not a problem or as big of a problem. But I think if it were to pass by special permit, the rest of the condominium would still be impacted negatively as far as insurance liability goes. So I have real concerns now about adopting any change to the zoning in a downtown.
Thank you. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, after hearing from both sides tonight, those for and those against the zone change, one understand that you know, if the fairness required that we do it by special permit, and if we do it by special permit, the people who want to have a family daycare at certain unit would have to go before the condo association to get vote up and down on that before they even come to a zoning board for a special permit. So I could support either way. Councilor Elliott motions to delay this action on this and refer to the zoning subcommittee for expand or working on this, or vote it tonight in adopting the planning board recommendations that to allow zoning changes by special permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was a great motion to bring in, and I supported it, getting information. And this is one of those where I think we're all kind of right on the fence on it because it's well-intended and we can see the benefits. However, I think one of the things that we have to be careful of is that it's not children not allowed. It's just that not in private buildings that was sold to people and have restrictions that don't allow it. And I have a difficulty here of stepping over that and saying, I know you folks set this up a certain way and you purchased it a certain way, but we're going to change the rules now. I hope you can defray the costs enough that everybody can afford the extra insurance. I have some real concerns about that. The special permit sounds better, but without having everybody had an opportunity to ask questions and find out what are the considerations and how are they going to be weighted, and what should we expect here. I would have a concern with just saying, sure, we'll make it a special permit, and let's hope that they do the right thing, and then folks leave not necessarily understanding, what the whole process is. So I would support delaying it, and I'm not just saying that because I won't be here. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? A roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
No.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
No.
Mayor Murphy.
No.
Counselor Nguyen.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
6 yeas, 3 nays.
Thank you. Next, we have order of taking and acceptance of Richmond Avenue extension. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Nguyen, seconded by Council Mendonça. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Reading by title. In City Council order of taking and acceptance of Richmond Avenue extension. To take by eminent domain and fee a certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for municipal purposes. To wit, the layout and acceptance of Richmond Avenue extension and other municipal purposes associated therewith. What's the wish of the council?
Move to approve.
Councilor Elliott?
Mr. Baker, could you just give us, I did read your memo on this, but could you give us a rundown as to what happened with this?
Mr. Baker, we're on the Richmond Avenue extension.
Yeah. I was actually probably answering that direct question to someone who was asking it of me. As I understand it, the ordinance has been referred to the zoning subcommittee for a future discussion about whether to proceed with it, I guess as originally drafted, explore a version that would allow this use by special permit instead of by right, or some other alternative that may come out of that further discussion. So I will be happy to participate in that zoning subcommittee and go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. We're on the taking of Richmond Avenue extension now.
That has nothing to do with DPD.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Mr. Marchant.
That's part of the Back Central Neighborhood Initiative. The Rotary Park, Richmond Avenue comes into it, dead ends into it, and part of the idea of reconfiguring the park to improve some of the safety issues, some of the traffic, was to extend that road and to come out onto Chase Avenue. The police were looking at it. It provides an access for them to get through the park. It bisects the park in some degree, but on one side of the community gardens, there'll be play equipment. There's a skateboard on the other. It provides more traffic and more visibility to the park, and that was part of the thinking through that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open it up for a public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor. In favor? In favor. Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. We'd open it up for those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition? In opposition. Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Nguyen.
Yes.
Counsel Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next, we have UMass Lowell Donahue Hall, 91 Pawtucket Street, Lowell, Massachusetts, request the storage of 550 gallons diesel fuel to liquid. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. At this point, we'd open it up for a public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor. In favor?
Good evening. Richard Wood with UMass Lowell. I'm the Life Safety Systems Manager. Just here tonight if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Open it up for those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council? Move for approval by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call, please.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mendonça.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Nguyen.
Yes.
Counsel Broderick.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
Next, we have again UMass Lowell Sheehy Hall, 4 Solomon Way, Lowell, Massachusetts, requests the storage of 550 gallons of diesel fuel to liquid. At this point, we'd open it up for a public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor. In favor? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Open it up for those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call, please.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mendonça.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Nguyen.
Yes.
Counsel Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next, we have a vote authorizing the manager to execute a revised LDA with the Habitat of Humanity for Greater Lowell Incorporated for property at 49 and 55 through 57 Rock Street. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager to enter into a revised land disposition agreement with Habitat for Humanity of Greater Lowell Incorporated regarding property located at 49 and 55 through 57 Rock Street pursuant to the Acre Urban Revitalization and Development Plan, and to consummate the disposition of said property by means of donation. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Laurie. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mendonça.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Nguyen.
Yes.
Counsel Broderick.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
Next, we have a resolution, motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Reading by title in City Council resolution. The City Council of the City of Lowell wishes to be recorded as committing to the City of Lowell's participation in National Let's Move initiative. What's the wish of the council?
Roll call. Move approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call, please.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mendonça.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Nguyen.
Yes.
Counsel Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote authorizes the city manager on behalf of the city to apply for the Bloomberg Philanthropies Mayor's Challenge. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager to, on behalf of the city of Lowell to apply for the Bloomberg Philanthropies Mayor's Challenge. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Laurie. Roll call, please.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mendonça.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Nguyen.
Yes.
Counsel Broderick.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote to authorize the manager to execute memorandum of understanding for the Lowell traffic supervisors. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council vote, authorizing city manager to ratify and approve the execution by the city manager of the memorandum of understanding between the city of Lowell and the Lowell Traffic Supervisors Association, the association covering the period of July 1st, 2012 through June 30th, 2015. What's the wish of the council?
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Noon. Any discussion? Councilor Elliott.
So this is moving forward, correct, Mr. Moses? And these are the new.
Yes, this is different from the other two. The other two went to June 30th, 2012. This one takes it from July 1st, 2012, 3 years out.
And this was included as part of the $1 million+ for raises that was in the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Any, Councilman Donta.
Just as in the prior agreement, I'm still opposed to the increases in the later years, and so we'll continue to not support these agreements.
Councilor Martin.
This is consistent with what we approved previously, I think, for superior officers, the percentage increases.
That's correct.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
No.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Madonza.
No.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Nguyen.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
7 yeas.
Next, we have a communication from the city manager to request approval of out-of-state travel for 3 police. What's the wish of the council?
Motion to take all 3 together.
Motion by Councilor Mercia to take all 3 together and approve. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Any discussion? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I normally will support and approve this, but one of these travel requests seems rather exorbitant, in my opinion, and I understand it's not taxpayer money. This particular travel request is the one sending 6 police officers to San Diego, California for 5 days. And it's coming out of the Law Enforcement Trust Fund, but when you do a little bit of math, not including the tax, it's almost an $18,000 cost to go there for 5 days. I look at the other requests. One is to go to Hampton for 1 day, 1 officer, and another one, the other one is send 2 officers, smart police training. Can you tell me why Mr. Moses, why we're sending 6 officers? That's going to cost, almost $18,000 or more.
I don't have the answer to that. That would be for the police chief.
All right. Well, I'm not going to. I don't support during these times spending that much money. Whether it's still money that was used, taxpayer money to put police officers. It's still tax money as far as I'm concerned. I know it's not general fund money, but that just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to spend that much money. And of course, then there's also the cost of, who's going to backfill for these police officers, whoever they are, and they're not listed either. So those are my concerns, and I'm going to oppose it.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
No.
Counselor Kennedy.
No.
Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Madonza.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Nguyen.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
7 yeas.
Next, we have reports, Subcommittee of Public Safety Subcommittee of August 16, 2012. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a brief subcommittee meeting for public safety relative to the amendments to the License Commission requirements, and essentially it was recommended that we hold off on any meeting and discussion until the board and the commission, the issues that are pending are resolved. So it was opened up and then continued to such time as resolution of the outstanding issues.
Thank you. Motion to accept and place on file by Counselor Noon, seconded by Counselor Mercier. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have report of the Clerk Auditor Oversight Subcommittee. Councilman Donson?
Yes, we met this evening at 5:30. Present were myself, Councilor Kennedy, and Councilor Martin. Also present were Councilor Elliott, Councilor Laurie, Councilor Mercier, Councilor Noon, along with our auditor, Cheryl Wright, and our CFO, Tom Moses. This was the first meeting we've had, so we went over the job description as it appears in the charter and the job posting, and we had a little bit of discussion on that. And then we reviewed the memos that were forwarded to the subcommittee, namely the fourth quarter cash controls review, quote for a forensic audit regarding the parking department, the memo regarding the April meeting of the parking officials, and the outline of work schedule through December that Auditor Wright had provided. We did not get to the items that were referred at the August 14th meeting, so the meeting was recessed, and we will take that item at the next available date that we can schedule a subcommittee meeting. There were lots of questions from councilors that were present regarding these memos, and Cheryl Wright was able to answer most of the questions, and we have a couple of items that will be followed up by our CFO, Mr. Moses, and our auditor, Cheryl Wright. That's a report of progress.
Thank you. Motion to accept as report of progress by Councilor Mercier, seconded by Councilor Noon. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the Wire Inspector Report of National Grid and Verizon New England for 135th 4th Avenue for one pole location. Entertain a motion to accept and adopt the accompanying order by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Noon. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. We have also under general petitions, miscellaneous, petition of Roland Mainville of Charlie's Pub, 14 Cabot Street, petition for non-illuminated awning permit.
Refer to the law department.
Motion
To the law department.
motion to refer to the law department by Councilor Mercier, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have utility petitions. Excuse me. We have also one claim for property damage under general petitions, one claim for personal injury. Entertain a motion to refer to the law department for report and recommendation. So moved by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have utility petitions. Pole locations, National Grid and Verizon New England Incorporated request to set 2 new poles at 256 and 287 Westford Street and 1 pole at Howard Street. Motion to refer to a public hearing on September 11th at 7 p.m. by Councilor Noon, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Moving on to the motions. First motion by Councilor Mercier, requested permission to name the 2 tennis courts on the Boylston Street side of Shed Park in honor of Dennis Krzyzak. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dennis Krzyzak was an all-around athlete, enjoying and excelling in all the sports that he played, but tennis was his greatest and longest love. Dennis's father, Ed, taught him the game and coached him for many years, explaining to Dennis that tennis was a game he could play for the rest of his life. Dennis watched, coached, and played tennis all of his life. He started as many people from the Greater Lowell area did at Shed Park. He played all Greater Lowell's best athletes, young and old. The game took him all over the United States. Dennis always loved the competition, especially the Lowell recreation tournaments at Shed Park. When Dennis played, a crowd always seemed to assemble. People knew him. He was not only a local favorite, he was entertaining. Dennis began coaching the Lowell High School girls tennis team in 1975. He brought them to victory. He again began to coach at the end of his career, this time the Lowell High School's boys tennis team. It was a great joy for him. It brought him back to his roots at Shed Park. Dennis was not only a coach to the students on the tennis team, but a mentor and a friend as well. Young people came to Dennis for tennis assistance and life assistance. They respected and trusted him. Many people asked Dennis to coach their sons or daughters. He would also do so freely on his own time. He enjoyed watching others grow and improve their game. These things happened at Shed Park. It is only fitting that the two remaining tennis courts be named in Dennis's honor and memory. It is a fitting tribute to his name. This motion was brought to my attention, to me, by his very dearest friend and school committee man, David Conway, who tells me he could write a book on Dennis's love of the sport of tennis. Dennis is truly deserving of this title, and I'm hoping that my colleagues can support it. Thank you. And if they will support it, I will refer it to the Board of Parks because they're the governing body. If I get it on the agenda, I will speak on it tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next motion by Councilor Mercier, request the manager provide process used to register residents for the new parking placards.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Mercier.
The purpose of this motion was to get an idea as to how the process works to get a review, to get a renew of the parking placard in the front of people's homes. Now, I did put this on for the last council meeting. We did get a lot of information back. I did say a little bit about how if you turn in the old one, you'll get a new one. But my concern was from a resident who I know quite well, who came down here at City Hall to register for a new placard, and she was told that another person was registered for that placard at the very same address. This lady was beside herself when she learned that because she has lived in the very same house for 60 years, so I don't know how that could have happened. So she was then told that there was no way to correct the mistake once it was in the computer. Someone in the past used her address or was programming it into the computer with the wrong address, and it happened to be her address. So I find this process unacceptable, that you can't correct mistakes once they're in the computer. So that's what she told me, and I don't know that you would lie about it, but how do you not correct a mistake that's in a computer? I don't understand that, so I'd like an answer on that. Do we not have a way to check or verify who is picking up a placard? Do we not check addresses so that we can identify the correct address to the person, perhaps through a bill or a utility bill or some proof of the address? This motion speaks to that concern, because I know this woman, and she's a very reputable and on-the-ball woman, so I don't know why she would come down here and they say, somebody else lives there, and nobody else, there was a mistake in the address. I don't know how they can't correct it, but that's what I want to look into, and I appreciate all the work that was put into giving us all the synopsis as to what's going on and how you review the placard. I understand that, and I appreciate it, but I want this concern addressed as well.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next motion by Councilor Mercier, request the manager have proper department have all present and future day care providers inspected by code and fire departments, and that if there is no compliance, providers be suspended until such time as they comply.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this motion is to find out how or if a daycare facilities are inspected for code violations or for safety purposes. It has come to my attention that there are numerous daycare providers who are putting the children that they supervise in harm's way. As much as I support the fact that we should have daycare centers, I want them to be safe for our children. And my question through this motion is to know what is being done to oversee the places where children stay all day while their parents are at work. I will not say that every daycare provider is in violation, but I will say that a few places have no smoke alarms. One daycare provider does this service at a location where a relative lives and it's not her true address. Another daycare provider has 9 children and she leaves them in the care of an elderly relative who has dementia and doesn't even realize what is going on, let alone that she's in charge of 9 children. Who's overseeing this? Should not be allowed to be happening. This was reported, and the people that was reporting this was told to just go away. That's not acceptable. I'm going to handle that a little bit differently personally. Another daycare provider has a visitor that is a known felon and should not be around children. So I'm asking, who's checking out these places, and are they even being checked out? Provide me and this council with the rules and the oversight that is being done to ensure us that the daycare providers are providing a safe environment for our children. That's the gist of this motion. I don't know what they're going through to open up a place, or once they get the permit to have a daycare center or facility or whatever, who's checking on it afterwards to see that everything's up to par? And if someone is complaining about an individual, why are they told, don't tell us that? Do something about it. Check it out. If it's not true, at least you know that you checked it out and it isn't true. But don't be turning people away that are saying that this is happening there. There's no smoke alarms. There's no carbon monoxide detectors. There's fire hazards there. There's a fire department inspected a particular building today and said, if this were being inspected to allow this daycare to continue or operate, we would have shut it down. And you can take that to the bank. It happened today. There's numerous problems out there, and I want to know, what are we doing to oversee the safety of our children? That's what I'm concerned about through this motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Elliott.
I think this is a good motion. And it's one of the reasons why I made the motion to delay action on an amendment that we discussed earlier tonight. I'm aware of this particular issue as well, and I think it's just one of, hopefully not others, but I'm sure this is not the only daycare or case in the city where there are multiple problems. Part of the regulated community that there is little to no oversight in the city. So before we move forward with allowing others, I think that we need to get a handle as to how many we have in the city, how many legal daycare facilities do we have in the city, and are they properly inspected? Are they up to code? And I think it's important. I think this is a good motion, and I'm going to support it because I think I'm not convinced that this is the only one, and I think it's an area of the inspectional section of the city that we need to tighten up and take a look at. So, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next motion by Councilor Laurie, request permission to name the water fountain at Fort Hill Park in honor of Annie Kavanaugh. Seconded by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion speaks for itself, and if it passes, I guess
Thank you,
we'll go
Counsel.
to the Parks and Recreation, and the meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock.
The Board of Parks, they meet on the last Wednesday in the month at 6 o'clock, yes.
So I'll be there if it makes the agenda. I met Annie years ago when I was the mailman over at Fort Hill, and anyone who knows her, anyone who goes by Fort Hill knows Annie. She's been out there mulching, cutting. She takes care of the park. Over the years, I think she had stargazing up there. She had a group come in with telescopes. She had a group come in They were taking maple syrup out of the trees. But to make a long story short, she was very engaged, and she'll be leaving the city shortly. But I think it's important when people do this type of work in a particular area, it's recognized not just for them, but for the future, for people who come along and say, you know, why was this done? And then you learn a little bit about the individual. So I'm just asking that we pass this tonight, and we can send it to the Board of Parks and Recreation to name the fountain for Annie.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Laurie to request the manager have proper department provide update regarding the building at 603 Chelmsford Street.
Second.
Second by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week I was walking around the Highlands just talking to some of the people who live out there, you know, on quality of life issues and what they thought about the city. And consistently I heard about 603 Chelmsford Street. It's a building at the corner of Midland and Chelmsford. It's deteriorated. My understanding is an individual lived there years ago, passed away, there's no heirs. The building's been in disarray for years. It's actually a public nuisance, a safety hazard, and it's really disturbing the quality of life out there in the Highlands. And I'd really like to ask the city, I know I called the assistant to the city manager, Henry Marchand. They were out to board it up, check it, make sure. But it is a danger, and I'd like to see the city really look into taking that property over, what we have to do to take it over, and either knocking it down or just making a way to make it safer, but really have the city take the title and take care of the property and go forth.
Thank you. Councilor Kennedy.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just quickly, I think this is a good motion. I had an opportunity to go by there, and that property is decrepit, and it doesn't look like anybody lives there. It looks like it's just been abandoned for a long, long time. And so I think Councilor Laurie's on the right track on this, and we should take action. You know, that's a main street. That's a secondary highway coming into the city, and so the building sits right there on that corner.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Entertain a motion to take all of Councilor Kennedy's motions together and approve.
No.
Second. We have a motion by Councilor Kennedy. Request the City Council adopt a policy of holding municipal lien auctions on an annual basis. Seconded by Councilor Laurie. Councilor Kennedy.
I'll be very quick, Mr. Mayor. I think that we just had the municipal lien auction. It was successful. It brought in about $1.3 million. I think that there are a lot of communities in Massachusetts that are starting to do this on an annual basis. I think it would be a good idea if we adopt the policy of doing it on an annual basis. I think it does three things, primary things. One, it brings in money that maybe wouldn't come in otherwise. Secondly, it helps to keep down tax delinquency because it's a deterrent, which is evident by the extra money that came in before we had the auction. And then thirdly, I think that if you do it on a regular basis, you tend not to get properties that are stale and that have accrued a lot of interest in the auction, that are weighed down and not as valuable to investors. So if we do it every year, the properties that would be at auction would be fresh and would have a lower amount of interest attached to them and would be attractive to investors. So,
thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a motion by Councilor Kennedy, request the manager appoints or reappoints members to the Election Commission. Second by Councilor Laurie. Councilor Kennedy.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 4 members of the Election Commission, we just appointed a temporary person this evening, but the 4 members of the Election Commission are all holdovers. And so this motion is like other motions that I've filed over the course of the year, just asking that the manager either appoint or reappoint members so that they have a term and they're not on holdover status. And while we're on it, I would like to point out this, that Councilor Laurie, earlier in the meeting, mentioned that there was a guy named Mr. Gilbride, I guess, that was supposed to be here this evening, and he wasn't here, and so it was just sort of put aside. But early on, back in January, February, Councilor Laurie made that motion, which I thought was a good one, that anybody that hasn't been here, not for reappointments, but anybody that's newly appointed by the city council, they should come here at least once. And so I would expect that, and I would expect you to indicate this to the city manager, Mr. Moses, that the people that were supposed to be here this evening and weren't, that they should be here at the next meeting. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a good motion by Councilor Kennedy, and he's been pushing this right along. Tonight we had a situation, and I said I wouldn't vote for someone who wasn't at the meeting or wasn't going to be here at the next meeting. Give someone a week delay. But tonight we had a situation where someone at least came forward to serve for 30 days, so I did vote to approve it because we have elections coming up next month. We have state and local elections coming up, and they're going to be held in September. So seeing that someone at least came forward to at least serve for 30 days in this position, I approved it. But 2 weeks ago, we approved a appointment on the planning board. There were actually 3, and 2 were reappointments, and the 3rd, and the manager said, oh, he'll be here in 2 weeks. Well, no, so all things being equal, vacation time, and I said I would give leeway. I voted to approval. The individual's not here. But I blame the manager for that, not the individual. It's his responsibility to get his appointments here, you know, and, but being that as a may, the person's on the board now, and, but I'd like to see the appointments kept up to date and at least reappoint for a point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Elliott, request the manager provide report on mosquito control efforts in the city. Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. Can you tell me what we're doing, Mr. Moses or Mr. Marchand, anybody with mosquito control? I know it's an assessment on the cherry sheet, but considering it's West Nile has been in West Littleton, the Groton, Dracut. I mean, I know we're a city, but we do still have, you know, pockets of, you know, rural area. So are we doing anything? I'm just concerned that, you know, it's a major problem across the country, clearly in Massachusetts, and I know it hasn't hit the city yet, but anything?
I don't know, but we'll pass that word on and get a response to
Well,
the
the
motion.
motion's been on since Friday, and considering, you know, they're like seen case by case, nobody knows. Would anybody care to check with the health department, and we can at least let people know that there are no confirmed cases, nobody's been bitten? We check with the hospital. I mean, the window is small, and
I do think, since I happen to live in a community that is ravaged by this, all the cases are reported publicly by the state. So if you haven't heard of a case here in Lowell, we haven't had one.
can we just let people know that? I think that would be good, that we can confirm that. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Elliott, request the manager explain the impact of the fire alarm procurement had on local business and property owners, and explain deficiencies found in the procurement of the fire alarm system in boxes. Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Elliott.
I really wanted to ask the manager about this, but I learned Friday afternoon that he wasn't going to be here. And typically, I think we're supposed to see some delegation of authority, and I didn't see that either, but that's neither here. So I have a lot of questions that need to be answered, but I don't want this, and I'm not going to ask them all tonight, but I do have some concerns I want to ask tonight, particularly when it comes to the business end of this. And I will make a motion to see what we can do, but this is something, first of all, businesses had to pay a significant amount of money, more than other entities, and I don't understand that. Can anybody answer answer that? Why we picked one?
Madam Solicitor?
Oh, okay.
We also have with us tonight the fire chief who can weigh in on this, as well as Mike Vaughn from the purchasing department. There were several different things that play in this, and during the course of actually litigating out, which was the underlying issue, that being a decision of the fire department to go with a direct system, and then to require of all units that have 13 units or more to hook up to a direct system. During the course of that extended litigation, there was an inquiry from the Inspector General's office, and I don't know when it actually first began, but it was probably 6 months before there was a final decision from them, or a letter from them on the bidding issue. With respect to a financial impact on the businesses, there are statements in the Inspector General's office, and there's more to the facts than I think what's laid out in that letter. So, for example, the low bidder, when the city went out to bid, had indicated that they would hold the same price for businesses as they had for the city. Now, there are some differences in the sense that the city was also including electrical hookup, and that was not included with businesses. However, with respect to the businesses that would be required to have a direct system, they were having actually the same price that the city had, and I think what the fire chief learned, and he can expound upon that, the bidder that the city had chosen actually held that price and has held it today, to date. The lower price that we hear about, it was from a competitor who did bid as part of this bidding process, who bid higher, much higher actually, than the bidder that we selected. And what was being offered to owners of units of 13 units or more was a system that, first of all, was an indirect system and would have come with added monthly charges, which when you begin to add them in, it actually probably would have exceeded the value of the box from East Coast, perhaps in as little as a year. We've also checked, and the chief can speak to this as well, with other communities. And by the way, the whole process that was utilized by the city, meaning once the city selected a low bidder and that other end users then had to utilize that low bidder, is commonplace throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. In fact, one of the bidders who's been rather critical of this entire process and had challenged it legally with the city unsuccessfully, they themselves have that very same setup in many other communities, including it's either Tingsboro or Tewksbury.
Tingsboro.
And if you're in Tingsboro, you would have to buy a box from this particular vendor. And the chief can also speak to some of the price differences in other communities where we are certainly in line. So in terms of the economic impact on the end users, the low bidder in a public procurement process that was competitive, and it appears as though businesses that would have been in this general area all appeared to have bid. Really the only difference between going under 149 and going under a 30B bid was an advertisement in the central registry. And in this case, thankfully we can look at it and feel very comfortable, or pretty comfortable, in knowing that in all likelihood nobody else would have bid on this. So we had a competitive bidding process. The low bidder, significantly low I might add, was selected, and the price that was given to the city was in fact the same price that was held out to this day for other end users. And maybe the chief can just elaborate a little bit on those points.
Well, that's right. The sole vendor issue is pretty much an industry standard. In any city or town, or most cities and towns that have a radio box system, they have one vendor because their receiving equipment at dispatch is set up to receive the signals from a certain type of box. The way it's coded, it's often proprietary. As Madam Solicitor mentioned, in Tingsboro, if you want to put a master box on your building that's going to connect to dispatch, you have to buy that box from Mammoth Fire Alarm. In Tewksbury, if you want to get on that system, you have to buy the box from LW Bills. They charge $5,600 for their box. In Lowell, it's East Coast Security Systems, and they're selling the boxes for $24.75, which was their initial offering, and they've held that price for 3 years now. But like I say, as you can well imagine, we own the frequency for these radio boxes, and oftentimes if we have difficulty with the system, we have to figure out, is it the city's side, is it East Coast side? If we were to allow 6, 7, 8 different vendors to put their boxes on that system, first of all, they wouldn't work anyway, but secondly, any issue now, you'd be dealing with several different companies trying to figure out what the problem was.
Councilor Hillary.
Thank you. The process was flawed from the beginning. We get a 5-page letter. Let me just, before I go any further, the manager indicated, and he's not here, so I'll ask him another time, that he did not see a 5-page letter from the Inspector General. Nobody thought it was an important enough letter to give to the city manager. Did you, Mr. Moses? Yes or no?
To tell you the truth,
Yes or no? Did you give it to him or not?
to
Mr.
tell you the
Vaughn,
truth,
did you give it to him? Yes or no?
I don't recall getting the letter.
This is not just a random letter, Mr. Moses or Mr. Vaughn. It's a 5-page letter, and it's a scathing letter. It's not just something that should be handled on a day-to-day basis. And we should have been given this.
Well,
Now, let me just continue.
okay.
Well, I mean, you said you didn't give it to him, so either he knew about it. I find it very, very hard to believe that the city manager, who seems to want to know everything, which is his job, doesn't know about a 5-page letter with, again, some significant negative findings against the city. They start right at the outset, Madam Solicitor. The process was flawed. It should have been bid under public construction bidding laws. Number 2, in the terms and conditions of Phase 1 were not favorable to the city or its businesses or its citizens. So I'm not sure what opinion anyone has, but the Office of the Inspector General says it wasn't a good bid. It wasn't bid properly, and it's not favorable. So when I say it hurts businesses, I don't know what other communities do, but it's not good for our community. And I think that we need to take steps, even if it's something like the monitoring fee to help our businesses. Because I can tell you, they were not happy, and they're not happy about this. And I can understand why. One company was given a monopoly, even according to this. So you have to go here, you have to get the box, you have to sign up, and it's wrong. I don't know why it went this way, Chief. Look at the conclusions. It was ill-planned and an ill-executed procurement process that required the system users to purchase the Keltron brand name fireboxes from East Coast. And it was not only a violation of 30B, it completely, this is what I don't get. It completely obliterated price competition among distributors of radio fire alarm boxes. That would happen under 30B. So, Madam Solicitor, I really don't understand your point, but I mean, I think this language is pretty clear. And then it goes on. The city violated the law by failing to conduct 30B procurement for radio fire alarm boxes. I mean, I don't want to go on about this because I want to have I want to specifically ask the city manager how this was allowed to happen. But I think I'd like to amend my motion to see what we can do to help businesses recoup some of the costs that they had to expend as a result of this entire process.
Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In reference to Councilor Elliott's concerns, I take exception with the fact that, number one, the city manager is not here. I didn't even know he wasn't going to be here. I didn't get an email. I didn't get a fax. I didn't get a call. I have a cell phone. Everything that Councilor Elliott said, I have all these things too, but I didn't know. Someone from the street told me they heard he wasn't going to be here, and he has a right to take a vacation. But I want to know what the policy is on a manager notifying the public, the council, as to when he's going to be here or away. I don't think that, and I know he gave that answer a while ago when he put you in charge, Mr. Moses, and I don't have a problem with that. I would have liked to see it on the agenda, not to go on a vacation at the whim, because I didn't know. So I want to really know what is the policy that allows the manager to go on vacation, not because he notifies us in the city council agenda and does it the right way when he's going out of state or out of town or out of the country or whatever. And he did say that when he's in the area, such as he probably was, because I understand he went to a golf tournament for Lowell General Hospital the other day. So if he could do that, this is important. I think he should have been here, and he isn't. So I want to know the policy there. Secondly, I concur with my colleague, and I say I don't think it's up to anybody to answer completely. It should be the person in charge, and we know he's the manager. I would like to make a motion that you, Mr. Mayor, call a special meeting next Tuesday to discuss just this very issue, where the city manager will be here and everybody, Michael and the chief will be here as well. That's what I think should be. I know everybody's entitled to a vacation, but I didn't even know he was going on vacation, and we didn't even know it in the agenda. I don't care if he goes across the street for a week. I want this known in black and white. I think that's only fair. So that's my motion as it rests, that we have our mayor call a special meeting next Tuesday, 6 o'clock, to be here to discuss this and issues about businesses that I personally feel, in my opinion, that the low bidder put their bid low and their losses onto the backs of the business customers. That's my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but I just want to know. I want to ask questions as well.
Motion by Council Mercia,
Second.
seconded by Council Kennedy.
Mr. Mayor,
On the motion,
on
Council Kennedy.
I think that Councilor Mercy's motion is a good motion. I have filed a couple of early bird motions with the clerk, and one of them has to do with it was after 12 o'clock on Friday, so I couldn't get it in for this Tuesday, and I didn't want to forget about them. So I did put in a motion asking that the city council review the city manager's vacation policy. I'm not sure if the city manager's vacation policy is spelled out in his contract. I don't think that it is, but if it isn't, it's the city council that should tell the city manager what the vacation policy is, not that the city manager should be telling the city council what the vacation policy is. And I don't think it's all that hard. It seems to me that any time the city manager goes out of state, there should be an acting city manager. It's no big deal. I mean, I think I read in the paper today that this was a vacation that had been scheduled for some time. So there was no reason why there couldn't have been an acting city manager. I've been here for 8 months. In the 8 months that I've been here, the city manager took a vacation in either February or April, and all we did was delay the meeting. So we just canceled the meeting for that week. The second time was sometime during the beginning of the summer, and at that point, the city manager had something on the agenda to make Mr. Moses the acting city manager. This time, there was no notification, there was nothing. I happen to know that he was going on vacation, but that's just because I happened to be speaking to him on the phone. And so I don't see why there should be a problem with notifying the council in a timely manner about when his vacation is. And that's something that maybe the city council needs to spell out to the city manager, that's all. But on the motion, I think the motion's probably a good idea, which would mean that we would delay action on Councilor Elliott's motion. And if we do that, Mr. Mayor, I have one question for the fire chief before that all happens. Thank you.
Okay, one moment here. Anyone else on the motion by Council Mercia for the special meeting? Council Mendonça.
While the chief is here, I had a couple of questions. Regarding the installation fee of the Keltron boxes, we have two prices floating around. We have the one seems to be in the, quoted to us, which was the just under $2,500, and there's the $1,100 price. Which one was the city paying for the installation on their buildings?
The city's contract was for $77,849. That included installing all the receiving equipment at dispatch, 2 of everything, a redundant system, including the antenna on the roof, and 68 municipal boxes. It was one package. We didn't break it out per box.
Wasn't itemized. The other question related to this is the $2,500. Would that include the installation, or would there be labor in addition to that for businesses installing the box?
The $2,475 is the price of the box only, and any competent licensed installer can put it in. It doesn't have to be installed by East Coast.
But there'd be additional charge for labor in that case?
I would imagine so.
Thank you.
Councilor Kennedy and then Councilor Elliott.
Maybe 2 questions, Mr. Mayor. You must have an idea of what it costs for the installation of labor, though, right? I mean, it happens enough. I mean, it must be out there. Is it $500, $700?
I don't. I imagine if somebody has in-house qualified people that can do it, then it would be an hourly wage. I really don't. We didn't get involved in the installation. Like I said, our city boxes were installed as part of the whole contract, so I don't know the installation cost.
Okay. Can you explain, and Councilman Mendonça touched on this, but why is it that the people in the private sector had to pay $2,500 or $2,475, and the public sector, the LHA, paid $1,100? Why is, what is the logic that made that happen?
Yeah, well, I can explain that. First of all, LHA purchased that, what you're talking about, the $1,100 applied to 6 boxes only. When we drew up the contract, we had a list of municipal boxes that were to be included in the contract. In that list, there were 6 LHA properties that were inadvertently included on the list. I think at the time the list was drawn up, certain people thought Lowell Housing was a city entity or that these were city buildings. After the contract had been signed, it was realized that they were not. What we thought the remedy would be to take the total price of the contract, divide that by the number of boxes that were involved, and that came out to $1,145 a box. Contract had already been executed, boxes are already there. LHA thought that was agreeable as well, so it was only 6 boxes that they paid $1,145 for, because that was our cost. They subsequently took out, I believe it was 13 permits, and paid the full price for those boxes. So I don't know where the information came out that they were given a deal or a sweetheart deal, or that they had 11 boxes or 20 boxes. They had 6 boxes that were erroneously included in the contract.
Well, it's because it sounds like it. If they paid $1,100 and everybody else is paying $2,475, that sounds pretty sweetheart. That's why.
Well, they paid $1,100 for 6 boxes. They've purchased close to 20.
But I mean, that's,
right.
You know, that's why I'm asking the question, is it didn't make any sense to me.
Well, that's the answer.
Okay. Thanks.
Councilor Elliott.
I just wanted to reiterate, but I did make an amendment that, and perhaps the manager can come back when we do meet, if it is at the next Tuesday's meeting, with the plan. A plan for those businesses and citizens that were affected by this $275 monitoring fee, and how we can provide some remuneration or some relief to them. I think it's important that we do that, considering now there's another change that's going to be taking place.
The motion that we have on the floor still is by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Kennedy, to call a special meeting next Tuesday. What's the wish of the council on that?
Roll call.
Can I, on
Councilor
the
Martin?
motion, I mean, I don't see what here warrants the special meeting. I think this is perfectly capable of being taken up at the next meeting. You know, if the manager's not here, he's on vacation. I understand people have questions. They want answers to these motions. The motion calls for an explanation from the manager, the next one calls for a report. That's typically what we do anyway, right? We get a report back, and then you can question the manager on the things he reports back on. So I would think this could be handled at the next scheduled meeting.
Councilor Lowe, are you on the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, on the motion, I'd call the Inspector General's office myself. I'm not familiar with letters from the Inspector General, and I called on Friday, and I got a hold of them on Monday, and asked them basically to rate their letters 1 to 10. Well, you know, I'm reading reports in the paper, it's this, it's that. The opening paragraph says, in their opinion, and then towards the end, they talk about some violations, and I'd like to speak to the IG's office. And I put a call in today 3 times, and I didn't get an answer. So, you know, do I ask to have someone from the IG's office here to define the letter? You know, I'm reading on the blogs and the media, on the radio, it's this, it's that. I don't know what it is. It can't, you know, they haven't gotten back to me, so it's not a hot button item with them. So, you know, I think we could probably do this in a meeting. I would think, I would hope we could do this in a meeting, so.
Anyone else on the motion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes?
Counselor Laurie.
No.
Counselor Martin.
No.
Counselor Madonza.
No.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
No.
Counselor Nguyen.
No.
Counselor Broderick.
No.
3 yeas, 6 nays.
We're back to the original motion by Councilor Elliott as amended. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have motion by Councilor Elliott, request the manager provide report on procurement problems in the parking department and steps taken to address them.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Elliott.
I just wanted to elaborate, I guess at the next meeting I will, a little bit more, but we had somewhat of a discussion during the whole parking issue 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to follow up as well. Mr. Moses, can you tell me what types of items were purchased without a bid process? In the parking department? Excuse me.
Okay.
Last week, the manager said, yes,
Right.
Items were purchased.
Right.
What was purchased?
I'm not sure what specific items, but they were itemized on each bill, so we can go back and look at the bills to actually get those items. But one thing I'll have to say, although like you, I wonder if they were bid, but it's not clear necessarily that they were not bid. We don't know what Central Parking did in order to obtain prices, so we'd have to ask them as well.
So did Mr. Carney buy some certain items that, without the bid process? I mean, I'm thinking there's Central Parking and then there's Mr.
Again,
Carney.
it would appear that he purchased items without utilizing the city's bid system. But I don't know if Central Parking, based on their knowledge of municipal accounts, whether they actually undertook bids that would comply with 30B. Wouldn't know without questioning them.
So what processes or what procedures have been put in place to prevent this from happening again?
Well, now that we know it did, we will, when we go out to rebid, we will not allow pass-throughs on the contract.
So how is it paid for? Maybe this is directed either maybe to you, Madam Auditor. How how are they reimbursed, or how is this paid for to central parking? I mean,
What would happen is it would be in the city's budget, but central parking was in charge of getting all the machinery and stuff for the parking operations. So they would go out, they would purchase it, it would be approved by the parking director once they obtained it, and get reimbursed through the regular reimbursement process.
but wouldn't you have to verify? I mean, you have to approve all of these expenses, right?
The problem is, we have a contract with a third party to do this work. So it's incumbent upon them and the parking director to get the best price.
So you don't have to verify anything? I mean,
Well, no, it wouldn't, central parking wouldn't go to our purchasing department to purchase equipment for the parking garages.
why not? I mean, we're not talking about pens and pencils, but we're talking about equipment.
We're
We're just writing a check for, thousands of dollars for something we don't know. I mean,
We were contracting with them to obtain all the equipment, so, I mean, the contract is the contract.
how can that be, Madam Solicitor? I mean, how can a contract be written so those types of things can circumvent 30B?
Well, there are contracts where you can have, as part of what is actually publicly bid, and everybody knows up front, part of what's being bid is you are bidding both the goods and the services. In this case, the part of what I believe was happening in the parking department is that there was a longstanding contract practice where the city was bidding both goods and services regarding to parking facilities and parking operations. And I think, going forward, that's something that, whether it's permissible or not, that's not going to be allowed in the contracts as a matter of practice. So there are instances where you can do that. There are instances in which procedurally it might not be done correctly, but by the same token, I think a decision has been made to not engage in that type of contract moving forward.
So from Michael Herbert's report, one of the findings was the parking director utilized a contract with Central Parking to purchase things outside of the scope of the parking contract. And then he goes on to say, this practice undermines some of the protections put in place through the procurement process. What was put in place? What does he mean by that? What protections were put in place? I mean, I'm just reading from his report.
Right.
Anybody know? I mean, he goes on, for example, a significant number of purchases were made by Central Parking without requesting competing quotes. So what has been put in place?
I didn't write Mike's report, but in our contracts now, we do have the pass-through language in there so that they could not do anything like that ever again.
So how are we going to make sure that they don't? I mean, how are you, Madam Auditor, going to know and make sure that that's not going to take place?
Well, right now, with Central Parking, with Mike Herbert there, he's making sure, and he reviews all the invoices, I review all the invoices, so it's not happening because we're not allowing it anymore.
We didn't do that before. Nobody was
No,
reviewing
because
the
it was
invoices.
part of their contract. No, we would look through their invoices, but it was part of their contract.
Mr.
to purchase
Moses?
equipment.
Going forward, if the contract doesn't allow that and the invoice comes in with a pass-through, I'm guessing the auditor would reject the invoice and wouldn't pay the bill. That's the control.
Any,
Looking forward, are there any other departments that we need to look at to make sure this is in place? Any other contracts? I mean, we hear, more often than not, there's a lot of contracts in the city. I hope that we would take a look at these because procurement issues are clearly a problem. And so I'll look forward to the report and follow up after. Thank you.
any further discussion on the report? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Motion by Council Martin, request the manager provide an update concerning the progress from the last Department of Revenue report. Seconded by Council Kennedy. Council Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. By way of background, in 2007, we requested that the Department of Revenue come in and do a financial management review, I think was the name of the report that was issued at that time. And it was pretty comprehensive, kind of top to bottom look at city's finances. The Department of Revenue had concerns at the time about certain practices we had. We had to submit our audit before they would certify a free cash and Schedule A at the end of the year. They took us off that list eventually. And maybe, I think in 2010, actually, I have it in front of me, I had requested an update on where we stood with that review because it called for certain recommendations to be adopted by the city. In 2010, a good number of them had been adopted, but certainly not all of them. And so I thought it would be appropriate to see what, because some of those things said this is an ongoing thing, and I'm sure additional things have now been implemented. But I think it would be a helpful exercise for all of us to see what progress has been made with those Department of Revenue recommendations, what, if any, remain to be implemented, and just how the city has fared since we had requested that review. So that's the request of the motion, is really to see what progress has been made since that initial report.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just have a point of personal privilege here. I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the council, former city councilors that I've sat with. This is my last meeting, and I appreciate all the courtesies that have been extended to me over the years. I also want to thank the voters and for their confidence and their support over the last 7 years. And I haven't been this nervous since 7 years ago when I first came in here on the opposite end of a resignation. It's been a privilege to work with the administration. Manager Lynch isn't here tonight, as we know now. And the rest of his staff and all you folks, the auditor, Mr. Clerk, you're doing a good job. Keep up the good work. And the rest of the city employees, I really do want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and it really, I'll miss it. I would be remiss if I didn't thank my family, extended family, and all my friends. As anybody here that's run for office knows, it takes a village to win a seat. And there's a lot of sacrifices that are made, and people think the candidates, serve, and it's really the people that come out and help you for no reason other than they want to support you. And it's really kind of an amazing thing when you stop and think about it, that over the years, the people that give their time and away from their families and the things that they do and they love to do. So I want to thank everybody, and I'm not going to mention names because I know I'll forget, and that will cause me more grief than trying to name everybody. But certainly my family and everybody that's helped me along the way. When I set out on my mission to get on a seat on the city council, I had two goals in mind. One is to always do what I thought was right and best for the city, and the second is to leave it, and if I was fortunate enough to get on, to leave it a little bit better, help make it a little bit better than when I came in. I think I've accomplished both of those, and it's been an interesting ride. I want to wish Johnny Leahy the best of luck. I spoke with him. I told him I would make myself available if he wants any of my wisdom. He's a good man. He comes from a great family, and I think that he'll step in and fill my seat with honor. And I'm glad that he's going to have that opportunity. I do want to say that I truly am grateful to all the people that I've met along the way, neighborhood groups, individuals, just people that I now call friends that I never knew and wouldn't have known but for this experience. It's truly been an amazing time for me, but time is what brings me to this night, and that is that it's time for me to do something else and refocus. And it's a little more difficult. There are many times that I've been in here thinking, geez, I wish this was the last time, and now that it's here, it's a little bit more different than I thought. But I want to publicly thank my wife and my children. My wife, as I said, and people that are here know, people tell us all the time, oh, thanks for your service, all your time. That's nothing. My wife has unconditionally supported me, and my house has been like a revolving door, because as most of you know, I'm all over the place, and you know, there are nights when I call last minute and say, I forgot to tell you, I have to go to this meeting, or I have to go to this event, whatever it happens to be, and she had to cancel plans to finally get out of the house with 2 young children driving her crazy. So I do truly appreciate that, and my kids who have given up certain things over the years in time with me, and it took young, honest kids to kind of wake me up a little bit and make me realize that, you know, this is I've done my time. It's been 7 wonderful years, and I do appreciate the support, but I need to focus on them. They're entering stages in their life now that it's a different stage, and they have tremendous opportunities, and I need to be there for them just as they've sacrificed and been there for me. So it's with some regret, but also some sense of knowing I'm doing the right thing, that, you know, tonight will be my last meeting. I appreciate everybody's support, and I wish everybody here the best of luck, and I know you folks will continue to do the good work for the city. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Council Mercia, unsurprisingly,
Thank you,
has
Mr.
something to
Mayor.
say.
I'd just like to say a few words to my buddy Kev over there. I will miss you with that smiling face. I would look over, and many times I had to turn away because that smile was contagious and it almost made me laugh. But I really admire your decision. I respect the fact that I know how much you love this job as a city councilor, this duty to serve the public. It's remarkable, and I know you take it very seriously. And so I know what a decision you had to make, that the love for your family outweighed your love for the council, because it's a very hard thing to do, to just walk away from something that you care so much about. I know what it feels like to have small children. I could never do with you and a lot of my colleagues, Councilor Elliott at one time with his young daughter, and Vesna, young children, and Bill Martin as well. I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have done that. It would have taken too much away from the family. And as it is, they're grown now, and they're still saying, Mom, when are we going to see you? So I can relate to that, and I really respect you. It was a difficult decision. We will miss you. I know that I certainly will, and we haven't always agreed on issues, I will say that. And yet we walked out the door smiling and laughing together. I really admired your time here, and I respect your decision. It's not an easy one, I know that. You're quite a gentleman, I will say that. You've always been a remarkable gentleman, and I respect you for your decision. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I made some comments in the newspaper, today's paper, so I don't necessarily want to repeat them, but I do think it's important for me to say to you, Kevin, that we will miss your presence here. You've been a very good city councilor. You've provided great service to the citizens of this city. You have a fair and balanced approach in evaluating issues, and just as you said, try to do the right thing. And in my observation, that's what you've done. I think you should be proud of your service. We're going to miss you as a valued colleague, and certainly respect your decision to spend some more time with your family. Certainly wish you well, and we'll miss you.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else wishing to speak? Councilor Kennedy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Broderick, I've only served with you for 8 months, but it's been good. And I think, as I said to you before the meeting, the time that you spend with your family, that you don't get to do that later on. You have to do that now. Serving on this, on the city council, you can do that later on. And so maybe you'll be back at some time again. Good luck.
Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to wish Kevin Broderick the best of luck. I've only been on the council 8 months with him. I don't know how the other councilors do it with families, kids. I ran when I was retired. My daughter's up and away, And at this point, I think my wife likes me being out of the house. I know she likes me being out of the house. But no, I do wish Kevin the best. And to say what Councilor Kennedy did, you know, years down the line, you've had the experience, you've got the heart, you know, you can always come back.
Thank you. Any further? Councilor Noon.
Just a quick one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Broderick, a short time in this council, I've noticed that you are the most, brought the most common sense and fairness to the council, and I learned so much, and I wouldn't have gone through the budget without your help in terms of guiding me, and you're very easy to talk to and very helpful in explaining things to me. You take your time out of your busy schedule, and I want to extend that thanks to your family, of course. And really, I have 2 kids, and it's tough. You share your time with your with the community. Take your time away from the family and share with the community, and that is tremendous. That speaks a lot about a person. As a counselor, 7 years, it's amazing. So I want to wish you luck and thank you for all your help to me. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to wish you well also, Kevin. We've sat next to each other quite a bit, and we've shared some subcommittees, and it's been a pleasure. I certainly understand how much of a challenge it is with families and young children, and I know you get your hands full, so I commend you for making that decision. And I'm not sure if I'm going to go home and get scolded tonight because I didn't make that decision, but I do wish you well, and it is a lot, and it's admirable that you made that decision to put your family first. I wish you well.
Thank you, Council. I'll be brief because I wouldn't want to belabor this issue. But I do wish that we could find the ways and means to have you stay. But be that as it may, or having said that, I suppose we'll just have to roll up our sleeves and roll up our bootstraps and hopefully be able to fill your immense shoes. Your decision, in your own parlance, is of course a no-brainer when you take into account your family. But in all seriousness, you've given a great deal to this city. You brought a thoughtfulness, a sense of fairness, a sense of responsibility, a sense of humor, and I appreciate all of those as much in the past as I will in the future. But your family certainly deserves more time with you, and you with your family, and I wish you and yours all the best.
Thank you, everybody.
At this time, I'd entertain Councilor Broderick's favorite motion.
Motion to adjourn.
By Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted.